Hello, Fáilte. This is Lora O'Brien from the Irish Pagan School, where we celebrate and honour our Indigenous or native Irish spiritual traditions. And I just wanted to ask the question today, or maybe answer the question today, hopefully, but to get people thinking about when we celebrate Lúnasa. And Lúnasa is one of our fire festivals, and it has become associated with the 1st or even the 2nd of August. Now, the idea of the fire festivals is actually that they were seasonal, okay, and they were community gatherings, and there is a lot from our ancient traditions that has actually made it into modern Irish folklore, but there's also a lot that has been misaligned or misunderstood or come into the folklore even in the 18 and 1900s that isn't necessarily what our ancient ancestors would have been doing here in Ireland. So the idea of celebrating any of the fire festivals really at a specific date is very much a modern invention. And of course, there's been calendar shifts and there's been all sorts. So for modern pagan convenience, we talk about the 1st of August being, or the 2nd of August even, being the festival of Lúnasa. And, being associated with Lugh, with the god Lugh of the Tuatha Dé Danann. But Lugh would have been fostered by a prior goddess, a queen of the Firbolg, Tailtiu. And for me personally, I actually honour Tailtiu at this time of the year. I don't know if anybody remembers way back when, probably around like late 1999, early 2000s, or 98, 99, 2000, around then, I was actually moderating one of the biggest witchcraft sites, which was the Children of Artemis. And my screen name at the time was Tailtiu, Tailtiu. And actually, my first introduction to paganism in Ireland when I was only a baby was actually representing the goddess Tailtiu. So Tailtiu is actually very important to me and always has been a big factor and feature of my personal practice. And Lúnasa is about the harvest. Excuse me, camera shake. Lúnasa is about the harvest. So really it is the first harvest. And I know a lot of us are distanced from agriculture and, from those traditions and from the first farmers, which possibly the Firbolg would have been in Ireland. But there's always something you can grow and there's always something you can harvest. And now if you're starting now, you could maybe start growing stuff for next year. But even if you only have a pot, even if you only have something, if you're pagan, you're supposed to be, like, that's what paganism is. It's an earth-based spirituality. It's connected to the cycles, to the seasons. So even though I don't know if you can see, but it's lashing rain in here in Ireland today. One of the things I'm going to be doing this week is going out and harvesting the container garden, because I'm still in rented accommodation, the container garden where I have planted potatoes and beets and carrots and onions, and I will be making food from that this week for my family. And that is a very important part of Lúnasa for me, is that first harvest. I haven't got fields of corn or wheat or barley or oats or any of the other crops that would have been here long ago. But maybe not wheat. I think wheat was. But anyway, flax maybe, any of these older crops. I haven't got them growing, but I do have potatoes, which are relatively more modern in fairness, but still form a big part of the more modern Irish folklore and culture and tradition, certainly. But it doesn't actually matter what you're harvesting. It could be a pot of herbs that you're growing on your kitchen window ledge. It could be, It could be a pot. You can grow potatoes in anything. You can actually grow potatoes in anything. If you have an old bag, an old shopping bag, you could throw some soil and a potato that's sprouted and you will get potato harvest, okay? You could keep it in like a corner of your kitchen and almost neglect it and potatoes will grow. And that harvest element and this kind of season is actually important. And if we're talking about the astronomical calendar and where the festivals maybe originally would have sat, the date of about the 7th of August is probably more correct. And that would be a midpoint between the summer solstice and the autumn equinox, I believe. So if you wanted to keep with the astronomical alignments, you could celebrate on the 7th of August, definitely. But I really do. If you're not kind of running a group and, you don't have to organize calendars and you're not doing any kind of festivals or big kind of public celebrations or rituals or anything like that, you can kind of celebrate Lúnasa wherever and whenever within this kind of couple of week season, within the month of Lúnasa in the Irish tradition. Anywhere that really kind of suits you and anywhere that personally your harvesting is going to be more appropriate than picking a calendar date. Whether it's the modern calendar or whether it's the astronomical calendar or whatever it is you're working from, but also like don't be judging people. People have lives and schedules and kids and groups that they're working with and they have to calendar out things. So somebody celebrating on the 1st or the 2nd, don't be fucking judging them. Like there's a lot of that going around too. Well, you're not celebrating on the true date of Lúnasa. Like fuck that. You're working to your own cycles, you're working to your own seasons, and your Irish paganism is your personal spiritual path. So absolutely educate yourself and absolutely be aware of everything that this festival represents now and has represented for people in the past. Do your homework and make sure you're working from a place of informed opinion, and don't just do whatever the fuck you want because you feel like it, right? I'm not saying that. But do align with your own seasons. Do align with your own cycles. That is the most important part. And if you want to learn more, of course, about any of the seasons and cycles, there's a class on that at the Irish Pagan School. There's also Lúnasa specific classes and classes for all the fire festivals, both to learn more about our Irish traditions, and also then there is a class by myself, and then there is also a class by Orla Costello about ritual and practice. So you can there's a lot of Irish language stuff involved in that. So you can kind of figure your own stuff out, and there are resources there for you. And make sure that you're on our mailing list, because we always, for all the festivals and the seasonal cycles and celebrations and everything, we always send out a ton of resources. And if nothing else this week, get to know the goddess Tailtiu, realign with that. Realign with her natural representations, with the games that were held in her honour. I mean, Lugh gets a lot of glory and Lugh gets a lot of notice and a lot of attention, and of course Lúnasa is named for him. But Tailtiu is really where it's at. I feel, maybe I'm biased, but I feel Tailtiu is where it's at for this whole season. So hopefully that's been helpful to you. And there are on my Lora O'Brien channel, I know that there is a video with a story. I have written a story about Tailtiu in my book, Tales of Old Ireland Retold. And there are other resources online. Just be wary of there's a video on this channel about how to know trusted resources and how to make sure that that the resources you're getting are accurate. But I mean, anything that's coming through our mailing list, you're gonna be okay, I think. We're very careful about stuff like that. So learn your own ways, make sure that you're getting accurate information, know your history, know your folklore. But ultimately, this is your spiritual practice. This is your how you are expressing, how you are aligning with the seasons and sacred cycles. And that is actually the most important part of an Irish pagan spirituality, as well as your community festivals, your group work, your all of that stuff, which is particularly appropriate for the festival of Lúnasa and for all the fire festivals. So whether you're celebrating on the 1st, the 2nd, or for the entire month of Lúnasa, or the 7th, or whatever you're doing, make sure that you're doing it conscientiously and consciously and in alignment with your own spiritual needs and your own spiritual connections and all of that good stuff. Okay? So hopefully that's been helpful. Like, subscribe, join the channel, do all that good stuff. Slán go fóill, and I will see you in the next video. And have a good Lúnasa, whenever and wherever. Slán.